Welcome to SNAP, Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities. This educational recovery podcast is presented by Claremont Mental Health and Mandy Friedman, licensed professional clinical counselor. This presentation contains vital information for survivors of abuse. Topics include the spectrum of abusive personalities, targets of abuse, abusive relationships, and survivors in recovery. We hope this information helps you gain solid footing and clarity as you navigate your road to recovery.
Hello everyone, Mandy Friedman here, licensed professional clinical counselor, clinically certified domestic violence counselor, clinically certified trauma professional, the creator of SNAP, Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities, and the owner of Claremont Mental Health. Today I want to talk to you about a topic called moral injury, and also something from our SNAP program, a term that I'm using, which is countermeasures. We're talking about moral injury and countermeasures in abusive relationships and in abusive circumstances. Working with survivors of abuse, I find something common among survivors, which is this tremendous amount of guilt and shame that survivors carry with them over the behaviors and things that went on during an abusive circumstance. And often clients will say, maybe I'm bad too, or I did bad things too, so maybe I deserved it. And I want to give you some examples of what I'm talking about when I say moral injury and countermeasures. Well, actually, first, I should probably define them. Moral injury is when you participate in something that goes against your moral compass, and then you're left feeling a feeling of shame and guilt and believing that you're a bad person because you participated in something. Now, countermeasures, these are the things that we do in the relationship, the abusive circumstance, that we are acting out of character. We would not normally behave this way or do these things if we were not being abused. Examples: substance use. When you are in an abusive circumstance, you are in survival mode. You're trying to regulate your nervous system. You're trying to cope. And so often people turn to substances, and then those substances become a problem themselves. Another example of a countermeasure or a way that somebody might inflict moral injury upon themselves would be sex acts, things that took place in the sexual relationship between you and an abuser, or between you and a molester, that the things that you were forced to participate in, that because you did those things, that means that there's something wrong with you, or that you're a bad person, or that you're messed up somehow. Because you did those things. Also, we will be targets of reactive abuse. And so often we just, we're taking these hits over and over again, and eventually you just can't take it anymore and you explode. So perhaps you had some explosive moments where you said and did things that you feel bad about now. Also, some people seek getting their needs met outside of the relationship. So someone might have an affair or be doing things that their partner doesn't know about because they're not getting their emotional needs met in the relationship. And probably the way they're being treated in the relationship isn't great. So they meet someone who's a kind person, who's nice, and who treats them like nice. And it's hard to turn that down when you're being deprived at home. But then, of course, that inflicts a moral injury, because if that's not something you would really do normally. Your character, it just goes against, who you are and the things that you would normally do. But then you cheated. And so now you feel like that, you need to be beating yourself up over that quite a bit. Another one would be knowing that your children witnessed things, and carrying that guilt and shame around. That's a heavy one. And then maybe you said some mean things. Maybe you let some wild things fly out of your mouth, but that's not how you normally talk to people in relationships. And then also doing things that are passive aggressive, breaking something on purpose, or, just trying to balance things out in some way. We're doing these things because we're trying to survive in the circumstance, but sometimes we just feel so deprived and so forgotten and alone, so mischaracterized, and we want the other person to hurt the way that we hurt, or we want them to see how badly that we're hurting. We want them to empathize with us. So we will do things that we wouldn't normally do. So the point of all of this is to let you know that if you're carrying guilt and shame over your own behaviors or things you participated in while you were being abused, or while you were in an abusive or toxic circumstance, you're hijacked by your brain and you're in survival mode a lot of times. So you're going to go along with things that you're not okay with. And also, again, especially when related to reactive abuse, you can only take so much because you're only human. I hope that by you learning about countermeasures and moral injury, you'll be able to reframe your circumstances in a healthier way and reduce that heavy guilt and shame that you've been carrying around.
If you like this podcast, subscribe and leave us a review. Find Mandy Friedman, LPCC, CCDVC on YouTube and Facebook. Join the SNAP Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities Facebook group and follow us on Instagram @theofficialsnap. Thanks for listening.